You've been learning a language for months. You can read articles, follow podcasts, understand most of what you hear. But when someone asks you a question, you freeze. The words are somewhere in your head, but they won't come out. You know more than you can say. If you felt this gap, you're not imagining it. It's real, it's frustrating, and it's completely normal. Most learners assume all skills should progress at the same rate. You study the same words, the same grammar, the same content. So why does listening feel so much easier than speaking? Why can you understand a conversation you couldn't possibly have yourself? The answer isn't about talent or effort. It's about how your brain processes language, and why some skills are neurologically simpler than others. When you read or listen to a language, your brain is solving a recognition problem. Someone gives you a word, and your job is to match it to a meaning you already know. You see the word library, and your mind connects it to the concept of a place with books. That's it. One direction. Input to meaning. But when you speak, you're solving a production problem. You start with a thought, an intention, something you want to express. Then your brain has to find the right word, in the right form, with the right pronunciation, all while managing grammar and word order. You're not just recognizing, you're generating. Think of it like the difference between recognizing a face and drawing one from memory. If I show you a photo of someone you know, you'll recognize them instantly. But if I ask you to describe their face in detail or sketch it, you'll struggle. Recognition is faster because it requires less precision. Your brain is wired to recognize patterns more easily than it can create them. And there's something else happening beneath the surface. When you listen or read, you're working with a limited set of possibilities. The word is already there. You just have to decode it. But when you speak, the possibilities are nearly infinite. You could say the sentence a dozen different ways. Your brain has to choose one, and that choice takes time and cognitive energy. So have you noticed this in your own learning? That you can follow a show but can't describe what happened afterward? This is where the asymmetry becomes visible, and it explains why so many learners feel stuck. There's a concept in neuroscience called passive versus active retrieval. When you hear a word and understand it, that's passive. The word activated a memory you already had. But when you need to produce that same word in a conversation, your brain has to actively search for it, pull it out of storage, and deploy it correctly. Active retrieval is slower. It takes more repetitions to become automatic. And it's why you might understand a word perfectly in context but blank on it completely when you need it. Your brain has two different filing systems, one for things you recognize and one for things you can recall on demand. Recognition builds first, production builds slower. But here's the part that changes how you think about progress. Those two systems aren't separate. They're connected. Every time you understand a word while reading or listening, you're strengthening the foundation that speaking will eventually build on. You're not wasting time. You're loading the recognition system that production depends on. Think of it like learning to cook. You can taste a dish and recognize the flavors long before you can recreate it yourself. But all that tasting, all that exposure, is teaching you what the result should be. When you finally start cooking, you already know what you're aiming for. Input doesn't just come before output. It makes output possible. And there's another factor that makes speaking uniquely difficult. It happens in real time, under pressure, with another person waiting for your response. There's no pause button, no time to look something up. Your brain is managing meaning, grammar, pronunciation, and social anxiety all at once. Reading and listening let you work at your own pace. You can rewind, reread, take a moment to process. Speaking doesn't give you that luxury. It adds a performance layer on top of everything else, which means the gap you're feeling isn't a gap in your knowledge. It's a gap in your processing speed under pressure. So what does this mean for how you learn? It means the imbalance is temporary, not permanent. Speaking will catch up, but it catches up through repetition and practice, not just through understanding. You can't think your way into fluency. You have to build the pathways through use. But it also means you don't need to panic when you can't say what you can understand. That's not a failure. It's a stage. Your brain is doing exactly what it's supposed to do. Recognition comes first. Production follows. The best learners don't fight this process. They trust it. They consume vast amounts of input, knowing it's building the foundation. And they practice output separately in lower pressure situations, giving their brain time to convert recognition into recall. You're not behind. You're just watching your brain do what brains do. Input builds the map. Output learns to navigate it. And maybe that's the real insight here. Progress isn't always visible in what you can say. Sometimes it's hidden in what you can understand. And that understanding, quiet and invisible as it is is doing more than you think. If this resonates with your own experience, I'd be curious to hear where you notice this gap most. And if you found this perspective helpful, there's more like it here. Either way, thanks for thinking through this with me.